guys, I'm the Sega Scourge and welcome back to Sonic What If 4, finally, part 4 of What If Sonic never lost the Werehog form. Last time, we wrapped up with the story of Sonic Colors. Sonic the Werehog smashed his way across Eggman's gaudy theme park in an effort to save the captive Wisp race, meeting many of his friends along the way and seeing their first reactions to his Were form. In the finale, Sonic transformed into the Super Werehog once again, and fought to restore the corrupted nega Mother Wisp back to her former self. This went wrong, however, when he was caught off guard and absorbed by the gargantuan progenitor, causing her to power up, while an unconscious Sonic was trapped in a vision of his worst fear with a horrific, nightmarish version of himself. Thankfully, the quick thinking of Tails managed to free the Hedgehog hero and return Mother Wisp in the process. The now tranquil creator then sent Dr. Eggman far off into space and revealed to Sonic that she heard a voice of his old friend Chip coming from Sonic's bracelet. With his friends having saved him this time and the knowledge that Chip is always looking out for him, Part 3 ended with a newfound resolution and confidence boost for Sonic. And naturally, with Colors done, everybody knows we're now stepping onward into Sonic Generations, and it's no secret that Generations' story is pretty cut and dry. Despite the wide avenues it opens up for storytelling, there's really not much to it. Because of this, for the longest time, I was really not looking forward to doing this episode. It was very demotivating, as I felt that no matter what I wrote, it would just end up super predictable. Werehog runs around Speed Highway. Wow. Werehog fights Perfect Chaos. Shocker, I'm stunned. There's no significance to it, no payoff, no ways to sneak up on the viewer with something they won't expect. I know the point of Generations is to go back, and I'm all for that, but that alone wouldn't really be surprising or add anything substantial to carry forwards. Generations is very much a game, with events moving quickly and by the numbers, so I wanted to treat it less as a game and more as a story based loosely around the game. I made a community post a while back asking viewers if they'd want to see me follow the beats of Generations verbatim, or make a slight course correction and steer the story down a completely different path than the original. The majority were very supportive of the idea and voted for something different. So, what I have planned for you today is easily the most weird, fanfiction-y story I've ever done for Sonic What If, but it's something very special. I guarantee you won't see it coming. It may seem slow in the beginning, but it's all set up just to build to the point of the story where I'll be changing things up. So, without further ado, let's start things off. As the events aboard the Interstellar Amusement Park faded into the preceding weeks, the maniacal Dr. Eggman hasn't been seen since the Mother Wisp banished him to the distant end of the universe, and because of this, Sonic's birthday went by undisturbed, without any unexpected gate crashes. The party was pretty much a reprieve for the Blue Blur, a breakaway from his ongoing problem, and a note on reliance, reminding him of the friends he has to fall back on. It was high spirits and good times all round. Even Blaze came back from the Soul Dimension just to attend. Following this, Sonic has spent the passing days at Tails' house, the Fox Boy running various tests and scrupulously combing over ideas to remove Dark Guy's essence. Their regime has left them blissfully ignorant to the fact that many of their friends have been disappearing without a trace, those present a few days earlier at Sonic's surprise party. One day, as Tails had almost come to a breakthrough in his research, time marches on and nightfall soon arrives, snapping Sonic into his Werehog form. Overcome with mental exhaustion from days of testing, Sonic crashes on Tails' couch to catch a few Z's. As usual, his slumber is restless, plagued by the same nightmare he's been seeing since he parted ways with Chip. In the dream, Sonic runs from the drooling spectre, but as with any bad dream, he's unable to get very far. As the demon reaches out for him, with a gasp, Sonic stirs from his slumber to the sound of what seems to be Tails yelling for help somewhere outside. Sonic scampers from the sofa and into the hall to find the front door wide open. The Werehog bounds out the doorway and into the front yard just in time to witness a mysterious purple portal. Hanging onto the blades of grass is Tails, being pulled steadily towards it. Sonic stretches out his arm, but it's too late, and Tails is swept away, vanishing into the rift. Then from that same energy-sloshing tunnel reaches two smoky claws that grab and stretch the fissure further, allowing passage to a monster wrapped in a dense mist. A huge entity with glowing narrow eyes and a jagged mouth. the Time Eater. Without a second thought, Sonic hastily goes in to attack the dark menacing mass, leaping through the air and winding up a frenetic haymaker. But as we know, the Time Eater is quick enough to swat the normal Sonic out of the air during his homing attack, meaning the hefty and slow-paced Werehog is an easy target. Thus, Sonic is slapped aside before his punch can land, sending him crashing into the wall of Tails' abode, instantly out cold. With the ruffian dispatched, the Time Eater lets off a burst of energy from its body, blanketing the area as the very air fades into a pure white glow. Sonic soon comes to, laid prone on his stomach amidst a pale blank landscape as white as a sheet of paper. As his hazy vision recedes and he presses both his hands against the floor to perch himself up, he notices something disconcerting once he sees both of his hands side by side. His right hand is a Werehog claw, so that must mean he's still in Werehog form, right? However, his left hand, the one adorned with Chip's bracelet, is still gloved. More like his normal form, his non-Werehog self. He scampers to his feet and his eyes drift downwards in confusion. What the heck's going on? Something unexpected has happened to our hero. A peculiar combination that's not quite Sonic but not quite Werehog either, lacking the thick fur and bulky frame of his nighttime persona, instead looking more akin to his base form, even in stature. The whites of his fur have changed their shade, even his shoes have been altered, the grey spikes taking on the colour of his regular golden shoe buckles. Perhaps most startlingly, the left side of his chest, including his whole left arm, is all Hedgehog, while the rest of him is Werehog Sonic. Sonic feels a deep queasiness overtake him, as if his body is in a state of disarray. He then notices that the light of the bluish-green stone atop Chip's bracelet is flickering wildly like a faulty light bulb, rather than perpetually glistening like it always does. It seems that this white space Sonic's found himself in is creating some kind of imbalance inside of him. This pearly void exists between dimensions, outside of time and space, and thus, the essence of both Chip and Dark Gaia are cut off and acting irregularly. Once Sonic enters a fixed point in time, take for example the broad daylight of Green Hill, he reverts to his normal self. This works as the same if he enters a nighttime area, he becomes full Werehog, but as soon as he's back in white space, he snaps to this bizarre amalgamation form. And speaking of Green Hill, after determining his situation and surroundings, he soon spots the faded entryway to the iconic landmark. He heads off to investigate, soon discovering Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, frozen and terror-stricken like statues. The story proceeds as normal. After clearing Green Hill, the entryway to the zone is restored to life in white space, reuniting our hero with Tails. After Sonic fills his friend in on the state of himself and discusses what's happened to the world around them, he proceeds onward through Chemical Plant. Once there, he changes into his full Werehog form due to the sun being unable to breach the noxious overcast. All the while, a short and stout version of the Blue Blur is also making his way throughout the zone, unbeknownst to everyone else. Upon returning to white space, Sonic and Tails are confounded to realize that only a part of Chemical Plant has regained its color, unlike Green Hill. Amy is still trapped for some reason. She wasn't restored like Tails was. Sonic can only conclude that his Werehog form must have something to do with it. Tails urges his big bro to continue on his search for the rest of his friends, while he stays behind to study the area and keep an eye on Amy. Later, after a tour through Sky Sanctuary freeing Knuckles, Sonic comes across a gateway that leads him to an eerie mirror room, devoid of its hue just like everywhere else. Our half Werehog, half Hedgehog Sonic strolls parallel to the row of mirrors, not realizing who's walking on the other side. Sonic turns to view what he offhandedly assumed to be his reflection, only to meet eyes with classic Sonic. The two Sonics are stunned and jarred, instantly realizing that this isn't a reflection but a pane of ordinary glass. Modern Sonic wonders who this chibi non-Werehog duplicate is, and classic Sonic is wondering why whatever that is looks like him. Though he's a bit shook, Classic doesn't turn aggressive in any way. He doesn't feel threatened by his strange double at all, quite the contrary. Instead, the two Sonics just stare without a word, analyzing each other, before Dr. Eggman's voice echoes forth and interrupts them, leading into Classic's battle with the Death Egg robot, which plays out as normal, culminating in the disappearance of what we know to be, spoiler alert, classic Eggman. Once he returns to white space, classic Sonic comes face to face with his semi-monstrous duplicate, alongside classic and modern Tails. After some explanations about traveling through time and space and another brief appearance from the Time Eater, the two Sonics join forces to tackle this together. Skipping through the Dreamcast era, but before the cast have arrived at the boss gate to Perfect Chaos, the group reconvene once again alongside Knuckles and the newly freed Rouge and Espio and do some catching up. It turns out that Cream and Cheese are still in their petrified state, just like Amy. Again, modern Sonic puts this down to his Were form, due to the locale of Speed Highway taking place at night. The two Tailses conclude that the super speed of the two Sonics is what's jump-starting the natural flow of time and accelerating things back into existence. However, this only seems to be working in instances when modern Sonic is in base form, unrepressed, allowing him to use his speed in sync with classic Sonic. That's why certain chunks of time aren't returning to normal. And while his half-and-half form is a tad faster, it still doesn't possess anywhere near the speed and aptitude of his original self, so that's out the window as well. The team weigh their options, reflecting on what's happened so far and what other courses of action are available here. That's when an eye-opener hits modern Sonic. He pulls forth the green Chaos Emerald, which appeared after Classic's battle with the Death Egg robot. Modern suggests the idea of using Chaos Control to transport them to another point in time, somewhere that could give them some kind of advantage. In other words, he wants to create a time portal like those seen in Sonic 06. The notion is quickly dispelled, however, as he concludes that there's no way that they could pull off something like that with just one emerald, if only they had more. Classic Sonic then steps forward, and to the fortuitous surprise of all the others, he reveals a second Chaos Emerald, the purple one, which came into his possession after his battle with classic Metal Sonic. With this, the cast's time heist plan is now a possibility. However, modern Tails reluctantly shoots another hole in the scheme, stating that even with the emeralds and assuming Chaos Control works, where would they even go? To stop the Time Eater before any of this even happened? But they don't even know where it came from. Where could they possibly go to fix this? For a moment, Sonic considers revisiting his battle with Dark Gaia for the sole purpose that he might be able to undo his curse and thus regain the speed he needs for their current predicament. However, he quickly decides against this when he concludes that the excursion could do more harm than it could good. Even if it means missing out on a potential reunion with Chip, he doesn't want to see Dark Gaia again. Like it or not, this is the hand he's been dealt. He needs to focus on the pressing matters at hand, restoring his friends and patching up this achromatic world.
Well, there goes that idea. Ugh. I wish everything wasn't so complicated all the time.
Wait a minute. Wish? Wish? That's it! Sonic snaps his fingers and recalls his earlier comment to Tails back at Green Hill, no stranger than rescuing genies in magic books. This, combined with Knuckles' remark about wishing, gives him the outlandish idea of traveling back in time to the world of the Arabian Nights and using the magic lamp to wish everything back to normal. This is what I said in the beginning about steering the story down a different path. But I bet you guys didn't quite expect this kind of sidetrack. As some of you may know, I take a lot of viewer feedback and ideas for future What If parts into consideration. I always like to try and think about tailoring the stories based on the things people want to see, and believe it or not, this has been a recurring fan request that's appeared in my comments sections ever since Werehog Part 2. Ever since I adapted Black Knight into the story, people have been imploring me to adapt Sonic and the Secret Rings and bring the Werehog into that story too. The only problem is that Secret Rings takes place before Sonic Unleashed, meaning Sonic's first storybook had already transpired long before he gained the Werehog form. So when I saw the comments, I originally responded by saying, well, I can't do it, because it's already happened. But now, thanks to the time-traveling nature of Generation's story, this is now possible. So, you're welcome. This is what you wanted. This could either go very right or horribly, horribly wrong. Anyway, after Sonic's revelation, most of the cast are initially confused or skeptical about this storybook world, but modern Tails adds credence to this by stating that Sonic told him about his Arabian adventure a while ago. Sonic goes on to explain that the lamp's power managed to restore the Arabian Nights world back to its former state after it was partially destroyed. Therefore, it's not a stretch to assume that it might also maybe reconstruct time and space here and now, or at the very least bring their friends back. It's a viable option, but once again, they've run into another snag. They have 2 Chaos Emeralds, sure, but there are only a few known users of Chaos Control. Sonic is the only one present who can do it. In order to pull this off, however, they'd need a second user, and with Shadow still off who knows where, who else could fulfill this role? That's when modern Sonic's eyes turn to his classic self, and a curious thought crosses his mind. Hey, other me. You know how to use the Chaos Emeralds, right? Though silent, classic Sonic's answer comes in the form of deafening obliviousness, tilting his head sideways slightly in confusion. He's quite a bit more inexperienced, and his skills aren't as refined as his modern counterparts. He can't perform maneuvers like the homing attack or the boost, but he's still a Sonic, virtually equal in attributes to modern. He holds the potential to do all of those things and more. After all, Sonic is a prodigy that gets stronger every second. He's a fast learner with insane adaptability. If modern Sonic managed to mimic Chaos Control after witnessing Shadow use it only once, then classic Sonic should be able to do the same thing. So, modern Sonic coaches classic on the basics of Chaos Control, starting with a demonstration of the technique and explaining its functionality. All the while, classic watches in gleeful amazement, evidently impressed by the display. Now, I don't know if Classic would actually vocalize the phrase Chaos Control, since he's not really one for the whole conversation thing, but it's not like you need to say it anyway. Maybe he'd just think the words, I don't know. Anyway, after an encyclopedic step-by-step breakdown, Classic Sonic is ready to give it a shot himself. He scrupulously grasps the purple emerald, shuts his eyes tightly, and to the astonishment of everyone, successfully executes Chaos Control. Being his first try, it leaves him momentarily knocked out and severely fatigued as the others help him up from unconsciousness. But despite all that, within seconds he's back to 100% and eagerly ready to try again, this time in unison with modded Sonic. The 2 Sonics facing one another raise their emeralds over their heads and produce a combined Chaos Control. The white space around them seems to warp, and a swirling blue rift opens, just like the one seen in Sonic 06. But in spite of their achievement, something totally unexpected also occurs. Without realizing, they've just conjured up a disastrous side effect. As the dual Chaos Control is enacted, the temporal energy emitted from the emeralds appears to be startlingly more volatile than expected. All of a sudden, modern Sonic experiences a sensation similar to a needle tugging at your skin when it's pulled out. As this occurs, a small purple electrical discharge bursts from within his chest and runs down his arm. The lavender bolt scampers from modern Sonic's hand and into the green Chaos Emerald. In no time to react, it then jumps from that emerald into the purple one, before finally leaping into Classic Sonic's body. Classic drops his emerald and stumbles back in surprise. The others stare at him in emphatic shock. Classic Sonic has changed. He's become Classic Sonic the Werehog. Everybody joked. Every time someone brought it up, I laughed it off. I was this close to not including this. I thought it was impossible. Goofy even. But after seeing so many people discussing the idea, I was determined to make it work, and in a plausible way. So here we are. Somehow the ripple of Chaos Control combined with the mysterious nature of the white space have caused a teeny tiny fragment of Dark Guy's energy to pass over and latch itself onto Classic Sonic. His design reflects this, as rather than simply a chibi version of the modern Werehog, Classic Werehog has gained his own unique look. Deep shadows around his eyes, single gold spikes in place of his shoe buckles, and pointed fingernails protruding from underneath his gloves. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. He looks pretty cute. While everyone stands befuddled by this turn of events, Modern Tales theorizes that the Chaos Emeralds may have acted as a sort of conductor. When activated, the Emerald's energy formed a relay that the dark energy was able to funnel through. After all, the Chaos Emeralds do possess a degree of negative energy. It's theoretically possible that Dark Gaia's essence could interact with them. Realizing this fact, Sonic ponders the possibility that his Super Werehog form might have inadvertently been stimulating the darkness within him this entire time. Modern Sonic is wordlessly mortified, strewn with the knowledge that he's unwittingly exposed his other innocent self to the malice of Dark Gaia. This burden was meant to be his and his alone, but now it's grabbed hold of the both of them. However, classic Sonic is rather unfazed, still surprisingly chipper in demeanor. His composure incites the group to realize that there's no time to sit around complaining about minor vices when all of reality is at stake. If all still goes to plan, they'll still have 3 wishes on the magic lamp, meaning that one of them could be used to remove Dark Gaia's energy from both Sonics and destroy it. It's at this point that Knuckles, Rouge, and Espio elect to stay behind in white space, each for different reasons. Espio to try and rescue his fellow Chaotix, Rouge to locate Shadow, and Knuckles to stay close by Sky Sanctuary and in turn Angel Island. Their separate ways decided, Classic and Modern Sonic along with Classic and Modern Tails leap through the portal. They soon exit as the vortex closes behind them, arriving on the balcony to an immense Arabian area. They determine their surroundings and behold the pathways made of shining marble and warm lantern light leaking through ornate windows. This is the floating Night Palace from Sonic and the Secret Rings, and as the name suggests, it's nightfall, and a supermoon hangs over the lavish structure and the surrounding desert. Modern Sonic returns to his normal Werehog form, all the while confirming his recollection of this place. However, classic Werehog remains the same as it was in white space. This could be the first indication that Classic's Werehog form behaves differently from the norm, but this interesting notion gets brushed aside for now. The team proceed from the gallery and into the magically noble candlelit chamber beside them. A set of strange double doors sit ajar from each other. The whole palace begins to quake, and suddenly, from the doorway, the cast hear a fierce wailing, followed by a rush of dark mist. The cry chills Modern Sonic as he realizes who that voice belongs to. Once the hurricane ends, the team hurry through the passage into a sort of throne room with decorative red carpet laid out. Floating overhead is a squirming mass of purple flesh with blazing light within. Whatever it is, it hasn't noticed them yet. The heroes scan the room, and there it is. They spot the embroidered, gilded lamp lying haphazardly on the floor. Modern Sonic stretches his arm and collects it. In that moment, the room around them seems to melt into a void of reflective tar, and the hovering protoplasm forms itself into a bulbous, six-armed creature, speaking out to its visitants.
I am Alf Layla Wa Layla.
And that's where we're gonna end things for right now. But we can't just leave it on a cliffhanger like that, so part 5 will also be releasing in the coming days. Yeah, I know it's becoming a bit of a habit of mine that I release 2 parts to a certain story back to back, but I just like to treat you guys, and since I've been on a break and it's been a while since the last What If, I just want to make up for it. So until then, what did you guys think of this part? What do you think of Modern Sonic's half and half form, along with Classic Sonic getting his own version of the Werehog? Are you excited to see the story of Secret Rings blended with Sonic Generations? And now that Alf Layla Wa Layla has appeared, what are you predicting to happen next? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments below. I've been the Sega Scourge, and I'll see you guys in part 5. Take care.